Hi, I'm John Hersker, and welcome to another edition of Flashback Cinema. Today we present a big screen spectacle based on an epic fantasy novel. From 2001, it's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship of the Ring is the first installment in the film trilogy based on J.R.R. Tolkien's three-volume literary classic, The Lord of the Rings, which was published in the 1950s. J.R.R. Tolkien was a literature professor at the University of Oxford in England, whose body of work as an author popularized fantasy literature in the mid-20th century. The Lord of the Rings is based on a simple idea about a ring lost for centuries that was created by a dark lord for the purpose of enslaving a mythological world. Well, maybe not so simple. J.R.R. Tolkien originally intended The Lord of the Rings to be a sequel to his 1937 best-selling children's book, The Hobbit, about a mythical character's quest for treasure guarded by a dragon. But the project grew into something much bigger. Tolkien, writing in stages over the next 17 years, eventually produced a manuscript totaling over 9,000 pages. Though he wanted it to be published as a single work, Tolkien reluctantly agreed to his publisher's demand that The Lord of the Rings be split into 3 volumes. The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King, which were published between July of 1954 and October of 1955. The enormous and enduring popularity of the books, which continue to rank among the best-selling novels ever written, should have made them logical candidates for adaptation to the silver screen. But the massive scale of the stories and Tolkien's elaborate mythological world, known as Middle-earth, made the books seemingly impossible to depict, at least in a live-action film. There was an animated movie version of The Lord of the Rings, directed by Ralph Bakshi, that was released in 1978. It was based on The Fellowship of the Ring and the first half of The Two Towers, and while it proved popular with fans of the books, no attempt was ever made to film the other half of the saga. It was in the late 1970s that a New Zealand teenager named Peter Jackson read The Lord of the Rings books, and his first thought was, I can't wait until someone makes a movie of this. Well, future film director Peter Jackson would have to wait 20 years, and the somebody turned out to be him. In the late 1990s, New Line Cinema agreed to finance the making of not one, but all of the Lord of the Rings books as 3 separate theatrical features. New Line made the unprecedented decision to film all 3 movies at the same time, with Peter Jackson directing. It required an extraordinary 2-year commitment on the part of cast and crew, not to mention a huge financial risk on the part of New Line Cinema. The studio was banking on Peter Jackson using late 20th century technical advancements in filmmaking to bring The Lord of the Rings to life on screen. The gamble paid off when all 3 films scored big at the box office in the early 2000s, and the trilogy has won legions of new fans since it first played in theaters. We are delighted to present The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring on the big screen in this special extended edition, which contains footage not seen during the original theatrical release. Remember, Flashback Cinema is a regular feature at this theater. We screen a different classic movie each week. To make suggestions for upcoming films, go to flashbackcinema.net. Be sure to join us next week for The Two Towers, the second chapter in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And the following week we present The Return of the King, the third and final chapter, and the Academy Award-winning Best Picture of 2003. Like today's film, both The Two Towers and The Return of the King will be presented in their extended editions. Now let the adventure begin. Here's The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.